Bigoted comments? Believing in a flat earth? Showgirls? There's many ways for celebrities to find themselves on the wrong side of fame. Stay tuned to find out about stars who absolutely destroyed their careers in a matter of seconds. In June 2001, Beverly Hills 90210 alum Rebecca Gayheart accidentally struck and killed a third grader crossing a Los Angeles street. People reports that it was the star's alleged negligence that led to the tragedy, with police noting that other cars had seen the boy and stopped when Gayheart tried to pass them in the left lane and struck the child. She settled a wrongful death lawsuit with his family the following year, but the damage to her career was done. Since then, Gayheart's work has mostly been relegated to TV movies, guest starring roles in TV shows, and a handful of single seasons of television projects, such as Dead Like Me. Speaking with People, she credited her relationship with her then-husband, Eric Dane, as well as getting professional help through therapy for helping her through this time, adding, "It's something that is with me every day, and it will be for the rest of my life. I don't think anyone could sit and say they got over something like this. I just don't think that's possible. It hasn't been for me." James "Jimmy the Greek" Snyder was one of the most successful sportscasters of his time, launching CBS Sports NFL Today in 1976 and remaining there for 12 years. So why'd he leave? Well, he was forced out after making some racist comments on air in 1988.
There's not going to be anything left for the white people. I mean, all the players are black. I mean, the only thing that the whites control is the coaching jobs.
As if that weren't bad enough, according to the Los Angeles Times, he took the outrageous step of alleging that Black Americans were better athletes than white athletes, and that this disparity was thanks to slavery. Snyder was subsequently fired, and the Washington Post reported that the CBS Broadcast Group's president released a statement at the time, saying, "Snyder made a number of remarks about black and white athletes which had patently racist overtones. CBS wishes to categorically disassociate itself from these remarks." While he did publicly apologize, according to the Orlando Sentinel, Snyder added insult to injury when he later sued CBS for $20 million and further claimed that his firing aggravated his personal health problems. Following Snyder's 1996 death, Lim Banker, a famous sports bettor in Las Vegas, told the AP, "He really just went downhill after that. It was a shame. He was real bitter." Brandy was an R&B and pop sensation in the late 1990s and early 2000s. She had hit songs, won a Grammy for The Boy Is Mine, starred on a popular TV series with Moesha, landed a judging stint on the first season of America's Got Talent, and even boasted a doll in her likeness. But that all changed at the end of 2006. TMZ reports that on December 30th, Brandy was driving at 65 miles per hour in Los Angeles when her Land Rover accidentally hit a Toyota Corolla. People noted that this led to a crash that involved two other vehicles. Tragically, the driver of the rear-ended Toyota, Awatef Abudiha, was killed in the accident. Brandy was not charged, but later settled a wrongful death suit with Abudia's two children, and her career never recovered after the tragedy. Her 2008 album, Human, was a commercial disaster. She lost her judging gig on America's Got Talent, and her brother, Ray J, essentially made the family notorious with his sex tape with Kim Kardashian. Not that Brandy's given up on her passions. While she wouldn't address the accident when she spoke with The Guardian in 2020, Brandy told the outlet, "Sometimes you get caught up in being popular and relevant, and that makes you lose the reason why you're connected to music. I'm scared of that. I don't ever want to get to a point where I'm doing music for the wrong reasons." Natalia Kills and husband Willy Moon were co-judges on X Factor New Zealand. However, their stint on the show came to an end when the pair appeared to needlessly rip into a contestant in a 2015 audition, earning a reputation for the meanest and most ridiculous X Factor commentary ever. According to the Daily Mail, Kills alleged that contestant Joe Irvine, who simply wore a suit and sang for his audition, was attempting to copy her husband, saying, "You're a laughingstock. It's cheesy, it's disgusting. I personally found it absolutely artistically atrocious. I am embarrassed to be sitting here in your presence having to even dignify you with an answer of my opinion. You make me sick." As if that already wasn't wildly unnecessary, then Moon decided to chime in.
"I feel like you're going to stitch someone's skin to your face and then kill everybody in the audience."
With these remarks, the couple effectively killed their careers. According to People, they were fired from the show, and they also received so much hate online that Kills dropped her stage name and went back to publicly using her real name, Teddy Sinclair. As reported by Paper Magazine, these days the couple performs together under the totally non-ironic band name Cruel Youth. Rapper B.o.B has laid low since his smash hit Airplanes in 2010, but he decided to pop back into the public consciousness in January 2016 to let everyone know that the earth is flat. As CNN reported, the rapper wrote amidst a series of since-deleted tweets, "No matter how high in elevation you are, the horizon is always eye level. Sorry, cadets, I didn't want to believe it either." As if that wasn't bad enough, B.o.B got some heat from astrophysicist and cosmologist Neil deGrasse Tyson, who tried explaining to him that the planet is actually pretty round. B.o.B responded with the diss track Flatline, which features a recording of Tyson discussing the formation of the Earth. It was the most listened to song the rapper had released since 2011, but not for the right reasons. As Billboard reported in 2020, B.o.B opted to lay low following the ensuing backlash against his conspiracy theory beliefs, and the rapper himself has expressed regrets for how he decided to share his views on social media, saying, "It definitely gets exhausting with people. When your inbox goes from girls sending you nudes to people sending you philosophy essays, it definitely takes some of the fun out of a cell phone." Howard Dean was a favorite to win the Democratic nomination for president in 2004. That is, until the former Vermont governor gave a speech at the Iowa caucus that January and delivered the scream heard round the world while attempting to pump up his crowd. According to Esquire, this essentially ended his chances at ever winning the White House. ABC News reports that the media replayed the so-called Dean Scream gaffe constantly, with everyone from Dave Chappelle to Diane Sawyer offering commentary on it. Dean dropped out of the race a month later. Dean himself reflected on the incident to Esquire in 2016, saying, "The honest truth is that I just wasn't ready for prime time. I came from a state of 600,000 people. I had an intensely passionate following. I wasn't anticipating how rough it would be, and we didn't really have much discipline on the campaign. I was an undisciplined candidate." Leaving off on a positive note, he added, "There's not a lot I regret about it. I've had a lot of fun with it. I got to be friends with Dave Chappelle. I still use the speech once in a while. I get up and all of a sudden I slip into the speech." Troy Duffy is the director of the cult classic 90s film The Boondock Saints. His story is legendary. He wrote the screenplay on his breaks from tending bar and sold it to the since-disgraced producer Harvey Weinstein of Miramax, who also offered to buy the bar where Duffy worked and sign it over to him as part of the deal. Inspiring story, right? Well, according to The Guardian, Duffy reportedly turned into, quote, "an abusive alcoholic megalomaniac who blew the deal after getting into an argument with Ewan McGregor." In the film Overnight, documentarians Tony Montana and Mark Bryan Smith tracked Duffy's admittedly disastrous mishandling of his opportunity, and later told The Guardian that it was the McGregor incident that soured Weinstein on the deal. After Miramax dropped the film, Duffy accepted a lesser deal that left him with no distribution rights, meaning that when the film attained cult status upon DVD release, Duffy got nothing. And though the film's underground success eventually led to a sequel 10 years later, it just barely made its money back at the box office and was also viciously panned by critics. Ray Rice's career ended in 2014 with a single punch, directed to his then-fiancée, Janae Palmer. According to TMZ, the incident was captured on video, which includes Rice then dragging Palmer's unconscious body out of the elevator in which he attacked her. According to USA Today, Rice and Palmer married shortly after the incident, and the athlete avoided criminal charges by agreeing to enter into a pretrial diversion program. But he wasn't so lucky with the NFL. His team, the Baltimore Ravens, dropped him immediately. According to Sports Illustrated, the league suspended him indefinitely. Although he successfully sued them, won a monetary settlement for wrongful termination, and was reinstated as an unsigned free agent. As of this video, Rice remains unsigned after years of begging any team to bring him on, even pledging to donate his salary to charities emphasizing education and prevention of domestic violence. During an interview with CBS This Morning in 2018, Rice said of watching the video, "I hate that person. I hate him."
During my darkest moments, I used to ask myself, how could she even want to support me? But
a lot of people wondered that.
Before anyone starts feeling sorry for the admittedly repentant Rice, keep in mind that despite his fall from grace, Sports Illustrated reported that he still collected almost $27 million due to a contract he signed in July 2012. Everyone knows Katherine Heigl pretty much torpedoed her reputation with her remarks about the show that made her famous, Grey's Anatomy. But where Heigl's Grey's flub led to a slow career evaporation, co-star Isaiah Washington's resume took a kill shot when he got axed. The firing was due to a report that he used a gay slur while referring to co-star T.R. Knight while arguing with other co-star Patrick Dempsey, and then repeated the slur backstage at the Golden Globes. That was in 2007, and it would take 6 years for Washington to stage his Hollywood comeback. In 2013, he told HuffPost, "After the incident at the Golden Globes, everything just fell apart. I lost everything. I couldn't afford to have an agent. I couldn't afford to have a publicist for crisis management." Washington then laid low for years to escape from the negative media attention, claiming that a false narrative was created surrounding his on-set remarks. Washington is now back to working regularly, thanks to his own efforts rebuilding his fan base via social media and collaborating on independent projects during his blackball period. He even returned to Grey's Anatomy in 2014 for a single episode, but we're guessing he steered clear of certain colleagues at lunch. In a surprisingly candid interview with the New York Daily News, Showgirls director Paul Verhoeven did not mince words when he took the blame for his movie derailing Elizabeth Berkley's acting prospects in the mid-90s, saying, "Showgirls certainly ruined the career of Elizabeth Berkley in a major way. It made my life more difficult, but not to the degree it did Elizabeth's. Hollywood turned their backs on her." Verhoeven even attributed Berkley's performance to his direction, but he admitted that the film ultimately failed to convey his vision. Berkley has also publicly acknowledged the post-Showgirls destruction, notably during a tearful breakdown during a Dancing with the Stars rehearsal in 2013.
Took a risk creatively and did Showgirls. Little did I know when it came out that it was going to be met with such criticism.
But perhaps the saddest part of Berkley's confession was her admission that her turn on Dancing with the Stars was so empowering that it felt, quote, like some sort of sentence was lifted, revealing how she thought it would prove to be her big career comeback after 22 years of industry stonewall. Winning an Academy Award is usually a golden ticket to A-list stardom for the lucky few actors who win them each year. And with comedian Monique's win for her powerful dramatic turn in 2009's Precious, it seemed like she was destined for that track. But the second she walked off that stage with her trophy in hand, everything went sideways. She wouldn't get another role for 5 years, in 2014's Blackbird, an indie flick that coincidentally starred fellow Hollywood outcast Isaiah Washington. According to a 2015 interview with a Hollywood Reporter, Monique claims she was finally told a few months prior by director Lee Daniels that she had been blackballed as a result of her husband's aggressive salary negotiation tactics. Monique went to TMZ and blasted Daniels, claiming that she believed he was behind her career downfall because she didn't thank him in her Oscar acceptance speech. Not surprisingly, this did not get Monique back into the good graces of the Hollywood elite, nor did her later doubling down on both Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey, whom she's also accused of conspiring against her. Add in her gender and race discrimination allegations against Netflix, and Monique's career may have been abruptly and unfairly shoved into an early grave. In October 2004, Ashlee Simpson performed her hit single Pieces of Me on Saturday Night Live, and it went fine. However, when she returned to the stage to perform her next tune, Autobiography, things went south. The vocals for Pieces of Me began playing while Simpson's mic was down at her side. She tried to recover for some reason with a spontaneous hoedown dance before fleeing the stage.
I feel so bad my band started playing the wrong song, and I know what to do, so I thought I'd do a hoedown.
Later, on 60 Minutes, she blamed her acid reflux for her reliance on a backing vocal track. Simpson later attempted comebacks, but the public wasn't having it, considering she was booed at her Orange Bowl performance in January 2005. Her record sales unfortunately never recovered. Opening up about the fallout from the ordeal on her e-reality TV series Ashlee and Evan in 2018, Simpson reflected, I had finished my album and it was out, and Pieces of Me was #1, and then all of a sudden, happened, and it was like boom, and the world hated me for this SNL moment I had. This Australian DJ certainly wasn't a worldwide name prior to her career-shattering goof, but she is now, especially since her ill-advised antics even got the royal family mixed up in a tragic suicide in 2012. According to BuzzFeed, Mel Greig posed as Queen Elizabeth and called the hospital where a pregnant Kate Middleton was being treated. She spoke with two nurses. First was Jacinta Saldana, who forwarded the call to another nurse who unwittingly told the DJ and her coworker details of Middleton's condition. 3 days later, reportedly distraught over her involvement with the breach of such a high-profile patient's medical information, Saldana died by suicide. Greig and her co-host Michael Christian were suspended from the airwaves. Their show was canceled, and higher-ups called for a suspension of prank calls. Christian, who was a minor player in the call, returned to radio on a different station a few months later. Greig, however, filed a lawsuit against her employers, alleging that they had not maintained a safe workspace. They eventually settled, with the station publicly stating that Greig had objected to the airing of the prank call. Nevertheless, she also resigned from radio in December 2013. After a 3-year hiatus, Greig returned to the airwaves, although she admits she's still apprehensive about being known for the infamous prank that ended in tragedy, saying on A Current Affair, "There's not a minute that goes by that we don't think about that family and what they must be going through, and the thought that we may have played a part in that is gut-wrenching." As a singer-songwriter type with considerable guitar skills, a pop sensibility, and the looks of a teen idol, John Mayer became one of the most notable musicians of the early 2000s. Nominated for Best New Artist at the 2003 Grammys, he'd win 7 trophies by decade's end. His first 4 albums were all certified at least double platinum by the RIAA, and he routinely topped the Billboard adult rock charts with hits like No Such Thing and Waiting on the World to Change. Then, Mayer gave an interview to Playboy in 2010 that left him waiting on the world to change its newfound distaste for him. He made a series of bizarre and discomforting comments about sex, race, and his ex-girlfriend Jessica Simpson, saying things like, "That girl is like crack cocaine to me. It was like napalm, sexual napalm." He also dismissed the notion that he dated a lot, claiming that he slept with fewer partners than he did in his early career. Mayer also claimed that he was loved by black people, then casually used the N-word and explained that he pursues mainly white women because his genitals are, quote, "sort of like a white supremacist." Mayer laid low and didn't release any music for a couple years, moved to Montana, thought a lot about what he did and said, and never again recorded a multi-platinum certified LP. Sinead O'Connor was banned from Saturday Night Live after she tore up a picture of Pope John Paul II during her a cappella rendition of Bob Marley's War in 1992.
Fight the real enemy!
But the sacrilegious act protesting child abuse within the church did more than just get the bald-headed singer booted from late-night TV. According to The Atlantic, O'Connor was instantly reviled. At one demonstration, a number of her tapes, CDs, and records were run over by a steamroller, and within a year, she had vanished from the popular music scene. Billboard offered a more egalitarian take on O'Connor's post-SNL career, stating that she did still successfully sell albums in the years that followed, though none of her songs ever made it back into the Hot 100 chart. And while it's unlikely that many can name a single Sinead O'Connor song outside of the smash hit Nothing Compares to You, everyone can probably cite at least 1 or 2 times she's made headlines in more recent years, be it her public and graphic pleas for sex or her Twitter feud with Miley Cyrus. Album sales or no, O'Connor has been nothing but a provocateur for decades now, a choice she made when she left her music career in tatters on the floor right beside that photo of the Pope. She later wrote in the Washington Post, "I knew my action would cause trouble, but I wanted to force a conversation where there was a need for one. That is part of being an artist." Gary Busey was an acclaimed actor in the 1970s and 80s, even nabbing a Best Actor Oscar nomination for his titular role in 1978's The Buddy Holly Story. Unfortunately for the star, a stubborn stance and an instant disaster ended his shot at ever returning to that stratum of success. People reports that Busey was an outspoken advocate against motorcycle helmets for years, despite a lot of data showing helmets prevent death and serious injury to riders and accidents. Fast forward to December 1988, Busey was involved in a motorcycle crash without a helmet. He needed hours of neurosurgery to remove blood clots from his brain. As he told the outlet, it was a critical situation. The right side of the brain, where the damage was, controls verbal and musical skills, emotional expression, and the ability to recognize visual patterns. After the operation, I couldn't talk, walk, swallow. I had temporarily lost my fine motor skills. I learned later that 50% of patients with head injuries like mine die. Thankfully, Busey survived, but after the accident, he struggled with drug addiction and still refused to wear a helmet. His career since the crash has been relegated to cameos and television work, landing no leading roles in anything beyond C-level straight-to-video fare. According to Billboard, following the success of secretly lip-syncing European musical act Boney M in the 1970s, producer Frank Farian attempted a similar charade by hiring some studio singers to record an album's worth of dance pop. He then recruited dancers Fab Morvan and Rob Pilatus to serve as the faces of Milli Vanilli. Despite how Morvan and Pilatus' speaking voices in interviews sounded nothing like the singing or rapping on their songs, record buyers didn't seem to notice or care. Lead single Girl You Know It's True was a huge hit in Europe, and Arista Records released the duo's debut album of the same name in the US in early 1989. It spent 8 weeks atop the Billboard albums chart and generated 3 #1 hits. Milli Vanilli appeared on a Club MTV package tour that summer, miming to pre-recorded tracks. During a Connecticut show, the tape jammed and blared from speakers while the duo danced and vamped for a moment before fleeing the stage. In the pre-internet age, news of the mishap spread slowly, but by November 1990, Farian was forced to publicly admit the ruse. Morvan and Pilatus subsequently appeared at a press conference to return their Grammy Award for Best New Artist. Pariahs of pop culture, Pilatus and Morvan resurfaced in 1993 as Rob and Fab, with a self-titled album full of their real singing voices. According to Milli Vanilli's Behind the Music episode, the independently released record sold just 2,000 copies. In 1998, 32-year-old Pilatus was tragically found dead in a German hotel room of an accidental overdose. Comedian and actor Brian Dunkleman first started booking gigs in the late 90s and early 2000s, appearing in roles on sitcoms like Dharma and Greg and Friends. Then, in 2002, he was hired to co-host a summer replacement series for Fox, a progressive reality TV competition looking to discover and anoint a new pop music singing sensation. With co-host Ryan Seacrest, Dunkleman hosted the first season of American Idol, which launched Kelly Clarkson to superstardom. It could have sent Dunkleman's star rising too, as the show soon became the #1 series on TV and ran for more than a decade, had he not left after just 1 season. Dunkleman told Variety in 2016 that while he suspected producers might fire him in order to have Seacrest host the show solo, he quit instead, saying, "I wanted to have an acting career, and I knew that leaving when I did would give me the best shot of accomplishing that. Still working on it."
So a lot of people think that I made the biggest mistake in the history of television. I don't agree. I think I might have made the biggest mistake in history.
Following electrifying early rock and roll stars like Elvis Presley and Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis was an ascendant superstar in the making. Lewis would work crowds into a frenzy with his frenetic piano playing and hot and bothered singing style. In 1957 and 1958, he hit the upper reaches of the American pop, country, and R&B charts with a string of rock-formative classics like Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On and Great Balls of Fire. In May 1958, according to Ultimate Classic Rock, the 22-year-old Lewis embarked on a UK concert tour and brought along his new third wife. The bride, Myra Gale Brown, Lewis' 13-year-old third cousin. According to the Daily Mail, Lewis initially told the British press that Myra was 15, but once her real age was discovered, the police interviewed the couple. He was asked to leave his hotel and his tour was cut short. As Rolling Stone reports, the two stayed married for 13 years and had a couple of kids together, but Lewis was never able to gain back his rock star status. While he'd eventually be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for his early work, Lewis only ever had one more top 30 pop single after the marriage to Myra. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more information, resources, and support at their website.